What is going on? Welcome back to Fanatic Journey. So today we're going to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, what the current data points are saying, and with all that, where I see things going in the short term. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So starting off, data point wise, Thursday is the only day that really has any substantial data that could cause a lot of disruption in the broader market, and that is GDP. So forecast is about 5.2, and that's on a quarter-over-quarter basis. So relatively high expectations. If those are not met, you are going to see a substantial sell-off Thursday onwards as a result of that. So once again, a lot of high expectations on that day. Prior to that, so Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, there is no Fed meeting minutes or any Fed meetings that could really cause some volatility. There is no actual companies unveiling their earnings that could disrupt the broader market. And the fear and greed index is currently at 67. So you're going to see a lot of stocks just following its technicals. So I'm going to go over that in a second. Specific to Lucid, though, there isn't anything planned for this upcoming week. No planned PR, nothing under their event section or whatever else. So it is going to be, I don't want to call it boring, but it is going to be relatively boring because a lot of people don't like to look at the technicals and see where things are going and whatever else. So I'm going to touch on all of that in a second. The only thing that really came out over the weekend that I wanted to share with you was this podcast has a lot of views, and it is unfortunately not in English, but they do have the closed caption at the underneath, so you can kind of understand what they are talking about. Luckily enough, we do have our man Sultan, who posted a good summary on Twitter. And in here, my concept of this isn't that optimistic. So clearly this podcast was more negative towards Lucid. Goes over the CEO was able to achieve 5 out of the 6 conditions, which led him to have that huge salary bonus in 2022. Talks on how unfortunately Lucid is burning through a lot of cash and how essentially Lucid just has barely any, I guess, demand for the new models. So a lot of bearishness, but then again, a lot of investors already know a lot of this information. We accept it, well, at least I accept it, because I know that Lucid is burning through a lot of cash. They are still trying to find their way. They've not really done the best on the how to handle issues in the past. I think Lucid's way of doing things is they just completely scrap, get rid of about 6 or 7 VPs, bring on new ones, and expect it to work. So I've said this from the beginning. Their management team is very smart. They're all engineers, but they're not business oriented. So obviously this has nothing to do with this upcoming week, but I do truly feel that Peter probably is not in the right role that he should be. And I think a lot of people are kind of piecing that together. But one interesting thing that I did find from that podcast that Sultan summarized right here, it says the interviewee stated that it could be one of the main targets for Saudi Arabia is to produce cars and export them to reduce importation and improve GDP massively, which kind of makes sense. I never really thought about it that way, why they would be doing it there. Because I think down the road from the AMP2 facility, they have a metals plant, which is very easy and advantageous for Lucid just to get metals from there, stamp their own shells, and easily just produce it that way, versus just having it produced partially at the AMP1 facility, send it over to the AMP2 and finish construction. So kind of seems a little bit unnecessary, but maybe it does have a greater purpose within Saudi Arabia, and that is just to improve GDP. This is a hot topic about going private. One thing that I have brought up why Lucid might actually be going private, and that would be from the PIF viewpoint, is just to do a big restructure, and that is to get Peter out and a lot of other people out and just to make it how they see fit. Of course, there's pros and cons to everything. I've done a lot of dedicated videos to going private, what it means from the PIF standpoint, from Lucid standpoint, as well from retail standpoint, which to save you some time, retail would get screwed, as bad as that sounds. So again, just something to keep in mind, but it's interesting to see that they did bring that up in the podcast. So once again, that's just something that happened over the weekend that I wanted to share with you. Shorts. So I'll give you an overview of what shorts have been doing. On Friday, they surprisingly did return 2.39 million shares, but still 28.35% of the free float is being shorted. 250.99 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 17.53, and through interactive broker short availability does indicate that there is around 90,000 shares available to be shorted going into next week. So they don't have that much ammunition, but shorts have been extremely active. So I believe on Thursday they increased almost about 6 million shares. Friday they returned. So they are playing with Lucid. They are manipulating it how they see fit. And as bad as it sounds, they are taking advantage of the technicals. So not necessarily the best scenario, but no matter what, I do feel that they are going to largely dictate where Lucid does go this upcoming week, because Lucid did close very close to a lot of support levels. And by shorts, they can easily give it a nice push, causing it to go down. That's just my anticipation of maybe what might be coming, but I'll touch on that again in a second. Options wise, there was $1.92 million in calls being purchased versus $4.74 million in puts. Based on this, people are anticipating for it to continue to trend down. Of the call options that was purchased, it's anticipated for it to close around the $5 range by the end of next week. And looking at puts though, it is anticipated for it to be around or a sub 450. So they anticipate a little bit more of a sell-off. Technicals, like I said, that's going to play a very big part in next week. And I've already touched on the Elliott wave. So 409 is a very key pivot for Lucid. If it can stay above that, then in theory, the Elliott wave is still projecting some positive things to come Lucid's way. Based on this though, with it closing at 477 on Friday, it is right above a very strong support, and that is the R1. So 470, you really want to watch that to hold going into next week. Vice versa, 499 is going to be that next strong resistance point. I do feel, like I said, the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, it is just going to be merely following the technicals, and shorts are going to give it a nice push down into this P and the R1 range. So as far as a low for this upcoming week, I do feel that 423 might be hit. I don't feel like there's enough in the market for it to go below that. So it'll probably bounce off of that and trade within this range, unless there is something substantial that does come out. Maybe some analysts a little bit more optimistic, but until now, I think more Thursday and Friday, a lot of analysts have been openly coming out saying that the market has overextended, gone up too much, too fast. So I think that is also aiding in a little bit more of a pullback on a lot of growth stocks, not necessarily a lot of the bigger players, because I think the S&P hit an all-time high, but still something to consider. Looking at this though, so momentum shows number of retail investors have been getting out on Friday. Stochastic, you do see a nice bullish sentiment, so black line above the red, but it is at 64. So Lucid is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if it does go up, maybe once again between this R1 and this R2, so even testing $5, then stochastic is going to get considered very overbought. So meaning the technicals need to cool down and pull back down, and shorts are going to know that, take advantage of that. So in reality, I feel this week might be either neutral, if not a little bit red. As bad as that sounds, but that's just how I see it. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying over the last little bit? Have you been selling? Last time I bought was at $4.15 or 14 cents, one of those two, because I do feel at that stage it was a very good buying opportunity, and that was more getting the repercussions of Sherry House. So that's also going to make the upcoming earnings very, very interesting as well. So that's a whole nother topic. But still, let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Where do you see things going? Do you think it is going to go back into the fives, high fives, or maybe even surpass the 546, so the R3? Or do you think it's going to pull back down and touch the pivot point like I mentioned? What's your viewpoint? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. One final thing I just wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo promo, even has Lucid in the actual picture. But sign up for an account with Moo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So this is one of the best deals on the market. Take advantage of that. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.